Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending our seminar. The main goal of every property investor is to acquire a number of properties that provide sufficient income to achieve financial freedom, of course, within a reasonable time frame. Now, there are two ways to acquire investment properties. You can either purchase a new property that has been developed by a developer, or purchase an existing property and add value by redeveloping it yourself. In order to make a profit, you have to keep this in mind though. Developers build not only their margins into the price of the new property, but also their marketing costs as well. So essentially, when you buy a newly developed property, you're handing over your first few years worth of capital growth straight to the developer. The situation is reversed though when you purchase an established property that is ready to be developed. In this case, you have the opportunity to add value and manufacture capital growth by keeping the developer's profit, which is usually 20 to 25%. And for example, it's quite possible to spend, say, $800,000 and end up with a brand new property that is worth over $1 million. And thus you create equity of over $200,000. Now, what this allows you to do is to build your portfolio faster. And what we mean by that is you can use the newly created equity to purchase your next investment property. And you keep repeating the process until you build up your portfolio to the point where you can actually achieve financial freedom. Now, today, we will be talking about the most important step in property development process, which is how to find profitable sites for redevelopment. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the 7-step process, I'd like to just talk about some of the key points when finding opportunities for development. So the first one is to find the development sites. You need to spend time by doing your research. And from experience, you must allocate up to 20 hours a week looking for opportunities. This would involve checking the sales results, the auction results, talking to real estate agents, attending open for inspections, and doing lots of desktop research on your computer using the internet. The next thing is obviously the key point is to reduce the risk. By that, what we mean is you are ultimately responsible for the project, and you should acquire enough knowledge to be in charge of the project. Now, this will allow you to do your due diligence, and once you complete your due diligence, you should get it validated by independent experts. Also, as part of reducing the risk, you should put the project for sale off the plan, because this will validate the price, this will validate the design, and if required, you can customize the end product to achieve the desired result. The other key point is to obviously run it as a business. By that, what we mean is you have to create your own set of rules and procedures and stick to them, and never get personally attached and never change the rules. Always think of large successful companies. The large successful companies build thousands of new properties, and they have their own set of rules and procedures which they have developed and fine-tuned over the years, and they rarely change the rules. And the advantage of running it as a business with set rules and procedures will make your business very proactive and eliminate unpredictable issues to deal with. And the last key point I wanted to touch on at this stage is by doing the key points as highlighted above, you will achieve financial freedom by delivering consistent high returns. Being consistent and sticking to your game plan will achieve higher returns. You use your newly created equity in a newly developed property and buy your next investment property and repeat the process until you build up a number of properties that will provide you with your financial freedom. And remember, the most financially successful people in Australia are property developers. Now, we have put together a 7-point checklist as a step-by-step guide to get the best result for your next property development project when finding a development site. So the first step in selecting a profitable site is to choose the right area. This is a very important step because you have to know your target market. In particular, you want to know who's going to buy your stock and why they want to buy it. So what we recommend here is to choose 1 or 2 suburbs, and ideally they should be close to where you live so you can travel and get to the actual sites fairly quickly. Now, you can check the demographics of the areas by using this website given. Now, there's lots of information provided on the internet regarding the demographic. First of all, you can have a look at the profile of the area. What is the capital growth of existing properties? What is the rental yield? So always have a look at that. Also have a look what are the top schools that are around, the type of education that people have that live in the area, the professionals, how many people own the properties that they live in, and also some ethnic background of the people that live in the area. The other thing is this site provides within the demographics is the total population of the area. What is the average income of the household? Also, the other important thing here that you can get from that site is the median or the average age of the people who live in the area. So the younger the average age, the more you can actually rely on the fact that you can build double-story townhouses, whereas the older generation prefers single houses, which means on a block of land you can squeeze in more townhouses if you go double-story. So that is a fairly important decision that you can make. So the next thing I will do is actually have a look at what is the current supply available on the market. And what I mean by that is see how many new, like if you were to design and develop brand new double-story townhouses, go onto realestate.com.au and search for that. Just see how many brand new, off the plan or nearly completed double-story townhouses are being offered for sale. In this particular case, there's only 4, which is a fairly good indication for you to consider. So obviously, if you see there's an oversupply, there's pages and pages, that means it's going to be very competitive to try and sell in that market. And on the other hand, if there's no supply, then I would ask questions, why isn't anybody developing in this area? So that's a good indication as well, to check the current supply to decide whether this is the area that you want to continue searching your development sites. Okay, by this stage you have already decided what area you want to look for development sites, and what you want to do is to see what potential sites are available on the market for your chosen area. So for that, I would go to realestate.com.au, enter the actual the suburb that you are looking for. And one of the important things to do here is you only want to select properties that are offered as a potential development site. So to do that, what you do is in the keyword, you enter a keyword such as STCA, which stands for Subject to Council Approval. And once you do that, then you'll be presented with a list of properties that are presented to the market as a development site. So these are the particular properties that would be of interest to you. So once you get that, in this particular case, about half a dozen of them, for each one of them you can actually go into the more details and have a look at some of the pictures, have a look at how the the real estate agent or the vendor describes. In this particular case, it says you can redevelop it, subject council approval. It's close to walking distance to important amenities and all that sort of thing. Of course, the descriptions here are all going to be positive, and because they're trying to sell. So to get an independent idea of what that site is like, I would suggest going to this other site, which is called the onthehouse.com.au. And by entering the address there, you get some additional information, like the size of the land and also the guesstimate of the price. Now, it's fairly important to get the correct size of the land. So in this particular case, by looking at the size of the land, you can actually decide how many units you can fit on that site. In other words, I mean, if it's only up to 700 or 720 square meters, you can only fit, 2 townhouses on there. But in this particular case, it's quite possible to fit in 3. So this is how you start, eliminating the properties and only concentrate on the ones that are quite suitable for a development. Now, if you like what you see at this stage, from realestate.com.au site, you can request for more details from a real estate agent. You can, at this stage, you can even try and speak to them. What is important here is you have to make sure there are no restrictions on this site prohibiting redevelopment, like, things like, single dwelling covenants, heritage overlays, or, some councils have a minimum requirement of, say, for example, 500 square meters for each dwelling. So if it's restrictions like that would not allow you to put in multiple units on it. So it is quite important to do the research at this stage before you proceed to the next stage. But if all is well, then you can proceed to the next step. Okay, the next step, which is step 3, I would suggest to go on to Google Maps and just have a look at some aerial pictures or straight views and maps of that particular site that you are planning to purchase. So what it gives you is a quick view of what the actual property looks like. You can actually see if there are any large trees, any power lines, etc. that you're going to interfere with your development, and see what else is available on that area. In other words, are there any other developments that are taking place? What is next door like? Are you too close to an industrial area? How far are you from the freeway? These are the important things, noise, for noise reasons, etc. So you can also have a look at the street view to get an idea what that street looks like, because at the end of the day, when you design your properties, they have to fit in with the streetscape. So in other words, if it's predominantly single story dwellings and single houses, coming up with a 3 or 4 unit development with double stories might not be accepted quite easily by the council. So this gives you an idea. In this particular case, I can see that there are some developments around where this particular property is, and that's basically all is available on the internet via Google Maps. Now, if you're happy with what you see, then you proceed to the next stage. Okay, step 4 allows you to determine what zoning that particular development site is in. So there's a website that is given here on the slide, services.land.vic.gov.au. So by entering the address, you can actually see what zoning it's in. In this particular case, it's GRZ2. And also that site gives you some other things like the vegetation overlays, etc. So you can see, if removing trees or any other overlays are going to interfere with your development. Now, the zoning is important because it determines how many dwellings you can actually fit on the site, because you're restricted by the open space, private open space area you have to provide. And also there'll be some restrictions of the coverage of how much of the land you can cover by putting new dwellings. Now, once you have had a look at it and you're happy that it's not a restricted area and It's it's within the GRZ2 or GRZ3 zone. Then you can have a look at you go into the council's website, which will be determined by the zoning area. It will tell you which council it's in. Just research the council website to have a look at. There's a very important thing here, which is called the open space contribution. And the open space contribution is determined by each council individually, and in some instances it could be none if you're putting 2 dwellings. But the minute you start putting in more than 2, 3 and above, the council will charge is what they call the open space contribution. And it is important to take into consideration when you're doing your due diligence, is because sometimes it varies from 2% upwards of 8 or sometimes 10%. And just imagine if you bought something for $1 million and you subdivide into 3 lots. At the time of subdivision, you will be required to pay 10% of your original purchase price as a open space contribution, which might affect your final profit quite dramatically. So it's quite important to be aware of it at this stage. And if you're happy with it, if you see that it's a reasonable contribution, and you just take that into consideration when you go to the next step. Okay, so the next step is step 5, which we call nearby amenities. At this step, what we're trying to do is to see what are the amenities close to the development site. Now, there's a website called walkscore.com where by entering the address, the site lets you know how far you are from all the amenities, and it shows you all the shops, the schools, the hospitals, the restaurants that are close by. And the other important thing it calculates is what they call the walkable score. In other words, do you rely on a car or you can walk? Anything above 70 suggests that you can walk to all the amenities, schools, shops, restaurants. Now, if you're happy with that, the next thing to do at this step is actually visit the site. Now, by visiting the site, you get a better feel for the area and the street. Also, when you drive there, you can get the idea of how easy it is to get in and out of that particular street. And also you can hear if any constant noises, and you might want to just walk the street and perhaps even speak to some of the neighbors. Now, if you've done all that and you're happy, at this step, one of the points will be to speak to the local agent as well. And what we're suggesting is to speak to a real estate agent that is not the selling of the current site, but somebody that understands the area. And usually they can quickly tell you what the market is looking for. In other words, should you build just a 2-bedroom townhouses plus a study with a single garage, or is a double garage a must in that area? So this sort of finer details, it's better to speak to the local agent. But like I said, it's important to speak not to the selling agent, because they'll tell you anything just to sell the site, but to somebody that has got a more independent view. And this will actually determine how many units you can fit on that site. If it's the difference between 2-bedroom plus study with single garages or 3-bedroom houses with double garages, will restrict the number of units you can put on the site. Okay, we're at step 6 at this point. Now you can either go to realestate.com.au or RP Data, or you can use a website that we developed. And what you should do at this stage is have a look at all the recent sales in the area as close as possible to the site you're going to purchase and develop. Now, to do that, if you're using realestate.com.au, well, you technically have to just extract the data, sort it by distance, work out what the distance, or you can just use the website we developed, which is called soldnearby.com.au, and by just entering the address, it will actually go and automatically sort out and present all the properties that are basically similar to what you proposing to develop and give it to you as a shortlist. Now, we suggest that you look at each one of them individually. Just examine each property in more details to see what sort of facade they used on that property, all the fixtures and the fittings, because this is, your proposed development should be fairly similar to what has been selling in this area. Now, also in here, you can actually see the number of bedrooms, the bathrooms. Just pay close attention to the sort of finishes, the polished floorboards, what sort of kitchen bench tops people are putting in their developments. This also will determine the actual cost, the direct building cost as well. So and we'll give you an idea what that area is looking for. Now, narrowing down the recent sales close to your development is a very time-consuming exercise, and this is one of the reasons why we've developed the website to help you, because this is the important step to determine the type of the product and the selling price. Okay, we're on last step, step 7, which is the feasibility study. Now, the feasibility study is part of your due diligence. This is where you do all the number crunching and decide the viability of the project. At this stage, we're assuming that you've done all your research, have a pretty good idea of how many units you're going to develop on your site, the average size of each unit, and also the per square meter cost for building these units. Now, since this step is very crucial, we suggest either using a spreadsheet or a feasibility software which we have developed called feasreport.com.au. Now, to calculate the profitability of the project, you must subtract all the costs from the total selling price of the development, as it's shown on the screen. And usually anything above 25% is a favorable outcome. Now, the other thing we show here is the maximum land value as well, which is basically what we're saying here. Although we're estimating that that site is worth $1 million, but even if you paid $80,000 above that cost, you should still be in a profitable zone. So the project will be profitable. Now, if it goes the other way, of course, then at this stage, if the vendor is asking too much, and you can basically present these figures and negotiate a better deal, because, obviously, if you buy it at a price that is higher than what the profitable range is, then you can go back to the vendor and negotiate a better deal. Now, the last step of the feasibility is to determine all the other costs that you will need to pay in cash. And these are things like the deposit that you have to put down for the land, the deposit that you have to give to the bank or the builder to start construction, the interest costs, how you're going to service that. Purchase costs, they include things like your stamp duty, your legals when you buy the land. Permit costs, this is, when you're getting your planning permits, paying the architect, the town planner. Also, there'll be some subdivision costs, and this is important too, because some of the banks or lending institutions might ask you to subdivide the actual land before they give you the money. Now, the other things here are the maintenance costs, and this is particularly applies to properties if you're going to rent it while you're getting your permit. So during that rental period, there will be some maintenance that you have to do. And the selling costs are basically not your commission to the real estate agents. This is assuming that you're going to sell, but this is more like the marketing costs, so advertising, making brochures, etc. And what our software package does, it actually calculates and gives you good indication what you require. And the other thing we do here is we calculate the return on your cash. So in this example, we're saying the total cash you have to invest in this development is close to $500,000, but the return, the profit margin, is close to $600,000. So return on your cash, that you have to put in the project is quite high in here, which is more than 100%. So, and it's based on the fact that you're going to borrow most of the money from the bank. Now, again, from experience, we found that this step is very time consuming, and therefore we have developed this software that is available for sale, and it's called feasreport.com.au, and it does these calculations in less than 30 seconds. So I suggest you visit that site and check it out. In conclusion, I just want to bring this to your attention. Obviously, we mentioned the fact that if you're going to run this as a income producing business, you have to devote your time. You have to spend up to 20 hours a week, and you have to be consistent. You can't just miss attending an open for inspection or a seminar or meeting with their agent on site. So what we're saying is, if you're time poor, we as a company produced this as a service, and we call it a site finder service, and it only costs $490 a month. And for that, what we'll do is we'll produce 5 fully research opportunities per month and send it to you. Obviously, the opportunities we find are in the areas that you don't nominate in. So the other thing we'll do is, as you progress with the project, we'll give you assistance with any issues in your property development project. This is further down, whether you need help with getting town planning permits, or producing working drawings, or appointing a builder, or doing some estimating. So we'll give you assistance there. And we will give you 10% discount on town planning permit application, because our company does specialize in getting planning permits for multi-unit developments. We also run webinars for other stages of the development projects. Now, you can actually visit our website on propertystart.com.au and have a look there. Under the opportunities, there's a sample report. So that's what you'll be getting. And also, it's a risk-free, so you can try it for a month and just see if you like it, and then continue from there. And thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully you'll get in touch with us, and we can be of some assistance to you. Thank you very much.